Thank you, Tish, and thanks, everyone. You know, we've done a handful of these, like 5 or 6. We've never had a crowd like this. So good morning, Diamond Head.
Yay, Diamond Head, woo!
And obviously, we're here to find out what's going on in our community today, and Nancy Depreo is here. But before I start, in my industry, full disclosure and transparency is very important. So just so you know, Nancy and I went to elementary school together at St. Clair.
We did.
We promise I will not do anything to change this interview, so it's all good. All right. So look, there's a lot going on in Diamond Head. So I read a bunch of stuff. I read, the planning documents. I read some of the studies. But the reality is, do you remember we were kids?
Yes.
How far away Diamond Head seemed?
Yes.
It was like Wiggins, So, and then all of a sudden now it's the largest city in the county, 9,524 people as of last count, which was February. Mm-hmm. So it's coming along. Obviously with growth comes issues.
Yes.
So can you tell us something about the growth and some of the things that y'all are facing? And I know we have a whole list of projects and things to talk about. So good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. And first I want to start out, can y'all hear me? Is it on? First, I want to start out by saying...
You're going to have to eat that microphone. You got to put it close.
Okay, first now it's working. Okay. Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for coming. I love each and every one of you. I love our city. We live in one of the most beautiful cities. I'm going to throw it out there in the United States. Do y'all agree with that? And Diamond Head is moving, it's growing. I've been very blessed to have been part of it since 2012, working with Seymour Engineering on engineering projects in 2012, all the way to being elected as your mayor and serving for you and the city of Diamond Head, which I do not take lightly. I'm very thankful. When we just introduced the elected officials, we didn't get, because he's not an elected official, but he is our city manager. So, Mr. John McCraw, can you stand up and let's let everybody see you? So we do have the city manager form of government. So this man works, we can't say 8 hours a day. It's 24, 7 days a week. And that's the position that he's in. It's a very difficult position. So looking at Diamond Head and the growth, I moved here in 1993, came here with a little girl and my husband, and marched into the country club and found out we were the only young family coming in the country club. And everybody's staring at us like, what are they doing? Since then, the dynamics, the families, we have had so many families move in. It's turning into a young community as well as a retirement community. So we've got both, and we've been able to marry both of those together to bring the best quality of life you can find on the Mississippi Gulf Coast right here in the city of Diamond Head. Looking back at 2010, the census, we were a little bit over 8,000. Now we're 9,529. And with growth does come challenges. We've seen a lot of new homes being built. I think the biggest problem that we've faced over the years is the drainage. Everything else seems to be going pretty much in line. We've got a lot of work with the Diamond Head Water Sewer District, upgrading infrastructure. We've got the state-of-the-art treatment plant here talking about utilities. And it's ready for growth. And I was very fortunate to be the general manager of the Diamond Head Water Sewer District to be able to build that project. And out of my 40-year career in the civil engineering world, that is one that I take the most pride in. It is a fabulous treatment plant. It did take us 3 years to get it built. We've got District 3 Supervisor here, Cody Canan, that works as a water operator there. Good things are happening with our utilities. So moving on to our drainage, we see our 2 legislators here. They have helped tremendously with Go Mesa funding for the city of Diamond Head. Between the ARPA funding and the Go Mesa funding, we are sitting very strong to just about complete every drainage project that we need in the city of Diamond Head. So get ready to see some construction moving forward. It's going to be a big year for drainage. And it's because of our legislators and getting the funding and the ARPA funding that we're able to do this. We've got $2 million from ARPA. The match funds will be $2 million. The Board of Supervisors, so thank your Hancock County Board of Supervisors, are giving us $2 million, bringing that total to $6 million. So we're very excited.
So, and it looks like Diamond Head, I read through the budget and all the other numbers, it looks like Diamond Head does a very good job on grant matching on all kinds of ways. So when you look at what last year, you had a budget of about 9.4 million or so, but it drops down, I'm sorry, 7.1 or so, and then this year it drops down to about 5.1. So there's a lot of money that's coming in and that's changing. You also had a bond offering it was $5,040,000. That money went into this year. So how's all that affect things? I mean, obviously things like water towers aren't cheap. So.
No, water towers are not cheap. Neither was that treatment plant. But the treatment plant we know was a result of Katrina. The existing treatment plant, the one that we had that Diamond Head was built on, was in the flood zone. And when Katrina hit, it was severely damaged. It was not repairable. So the city was blessed. The Water Sewer District was blessed to have FEMA funding to build the treatment plant. So how are we moving forward now with the grant funding and road work? So we mentioned Diamond Head financially is very, very solid and sound with very little debt. The beginning of the incorporation after the first year, the elected officials did make a little over $1 million bond, and that was to buy the church, right, to turn it into City Hall. They had a little bit of funding left on that, and they did ADA compliance to make it accessible to every resident in Diamond Head at City Hall. Moving on to where we are this past year, we did do a GO bond, a $5 million bond, first GO bond that the city of Diamond Head has done. So looking at a city this young and very small to only be a little over $5 million in debt is tremendous, tremendous. So what are we doing with the $5 million? We all see the Diamond Head Drive. It is the big road that everybody goes down. Our visitors come to see. The residents, you can't get to your home if you're not on Diamond Head Drive, right? The big loop circle around Diamond Head. The $5 million bond is for repaving the entire loop of Diamond Head. So we're very excited about that. And with that will also come striping for our new bikeway path to go completely around the circle. We're excited about that. You know, sometimes people accidentally think that's a place to park, and it's not. Well, they're going to be notified once we do the paving and the striping around. This is our bikeway, our pathway, to go completely around the city of Diamond Head on the loop. And I know we're all excited. Who's excited to see that repaved? That's going to be tremendous.
Well, there's two cities that always have road work, Atlanta and Diamond Head. It's just permanent. So look, I read, if y'all haven't seen the Envision Diamond Head 2040 plan, so the master plan for the city, it's online, you can get it, and I read the whole thing, and it really is exciting. And going to the page, it shows where you're at in different parts of the project. Looks like you have 17 projects in some form of another is getting started. How do y'all decide what to do next? I mean, obviously, if you got drainage issues, which we've had, and so that has to be addressed. But in things like this, like with the commercial district and stuff, how do you make decisions to go forward?
Well, it takes a lot of planning and a lot of work to decide what projects are moving forward. And it's been, so you can look at the council in place now, but you've also got to look back to the people that were sitting there in 2012. Every decision that we make as a council reflects on what's going to happen in the future of Diamond Head. Every decision that the people made sitting there in 2012, we're continuing on with today. We take our master restore plan. A lot of the ideas that were on the master restore plan were Mayor Schaefer's ideas. I did draw the map. I did put the map together, but it was a lot of his vision and a lot of the council members. And we're still moving forward with that plan on the Master Restore Plan. So the Master Restore Plan has the kayak launches, the one on Bayou Drive, the one at the end of Banyan Place, and the one on the south side. It also has a walking trail on the south side. It has the waterfront development at Noma Drive. So what are we working on now with the 2040 plan? Our new commercial area. So who is ready to see a commercial district in Diamond Head? We have one now, but it's very limited. So moving on to what we're doing now, we're about ready to bid the first phase of our new commercial area, and that is going to be from Park 10 Lane connecting into Noma Drive. We've got a little over $6 million in funding. Again, thank you to our legislators. Not that I keep patting them on the back, but they are the reason that we have the $6.4 million to move forward with that project. It'll be a road very similar to East Aloha, which it'll have decorative lighting, sidewalks, and 2 lanes that won't be as wide as we're usually accustomed to, but that's okay because it's made to slow you down. And it will open up an additional 3,200 lineal feet both ways, so that's over 6,000 lineal feet of roadway for new commercial businesses to come into Diamond Head. Diamond Head is open for commercial development. We are ready, and once this project is finished with the infrastructure in and the utilities, we are ready to open the doors to businesses to come into Diamond Head. Now, growth is important moving forward. We don't want to overbuild Diamond Head. We don't want to overbuild the commercial district. But we do want an area where residents can stay in the afternoons, walk downtown, whether it be mixed-use commercial development with park areas, as well as shopping, decorative street lighting, and beautiful landscaping, something to allow our residents to stay here in the afternoons and enjoy the beautiful city and shop.
Well, it's nice to say we don't want it to grow too much, but it's growing. So
growing.
from 2000 to 2020, I read that Diamond Head grew 58.5%. And if y'all don't know, the first time I lived here was 86 to 88. Amy and I moved back up here in 96. It was just incredible. When we were younger, when you'd come up here and you'd be looking for something, you found the water tower most of the time, but you always ended up in the graveyard. Remember, it didn't matter. My first homecoming dance, I ended up in the graveyard. I had to cough in the hinky dink. The dad over there was terrible. That's not the problem anymore. There's a lot of trees.
Yes.
So how does Diamond Head grow going forward? I mean, obviously there's still some big green spaces. And then can it expand outside of its current borders?
And that's a very good question. We see development, we see residential development. We've got the commercial area where we're ready to grow for the next 10 to 15 years. Once that opens, we've got commercial area ready to grow. Residential, we are just about peaking out. Do we need to start looking outside of the boundaries of Diamond Head? Yes, we do. We do need to start looking out on where we can annex and expand. And that day probably isn't far off.
Okay, all right. So, and then as far as all the wonderful things that Diamond Head, and what was so different about Diamond Head for those of us from here, we never had a planned community. I mean, we just didn't have it. You got golf course, and you got airstrip, and you got swimming pools, and you got all these wonderful things. So, but that's all controlled by the POA. Now, and then we incorporated. What is the relationship currently between the city and the POA, and how does that move forward?
I think the relationship between the POA and the city probably is at the best it's been since 2012. You know, there are open communications. We are talking. We are discussing. I mean, look at this beautiful venue this morning, right? Do you get any better than this? You look out those doors, you see the golf course. It's beautiful. Everything's set up nice. It's always pristine. And we do have to work together. Diamond Head is very unique in the fact that we've got Diamond Head Water Sewer District doing our utilities, the City of Diamond Head roadways, drainage, your property taxes, the fire department controlling the fire, and then the POA with the amenities. So it takes everybody working together, communicating daily to move things forward. And Diamond Head is growing. I remember back in the day when we were at St. Clair, we had a little marching band called the Indians. And we had sisters that was over the school. So if you did anything wrong, you didn't do it wrong. You didn't do it again. So, but I remember being in a Mardi Gras parade and marching over the overpass here in Diamond Head many, many years ago. So that's how far back we go. And you're right. When you came here and you got off the circle, you were there for an hour trying to figure out because there were no homes. It was just streets and no homes. So we're very blessed that Diamond Head is a place where everybody wants to come and move, and we have grown tremendously.
Yes. All right. So with that, those are the things I really wanted to start this off with. It's incredible to see how many fun things. You know, one thing I didn't know about, and because I'm never here during this time, the farmers market.
Oh, yes.
And then the senior village. Can you
Yes.
mention those two real quick?
Yes. And I want to go back on the projects on a few, if you don't mind.
We will.
Okay, we will. Okay. So talking about the farmers market, who's been to the farmers market here in Diamond Head? Wow, okay. So the farmers market has taken a complete turnaround. After COVID, we had issues with the vendors. You know, we decided to move it from a Saturday. Well, at COVID, we stopped it. Then the vendors, of course, that's a lot of their livelihoods. They moved on to other markets, so they were not available for Saturday markets. We moved it to Friday as a test, and it has been overwhelming. Today, if you got time, stop on the town green. We've got 30 vendors out there. Top of the line produce, support local farmers. We have every produce that you can think of out there. Diamond Head Senior Village is a nonprofit that I am part of. We've got over 200 members in the city of Diamond Head that are part of the Diamond Head Senior Village. It is a new concept that works with building villages for seniors, and this is 60 and older. Having speakers come, I'm going to have to say, since this started in January, we have learned so much about the medical industry, about things for seniors 60 and older. It is a group that if you want to join and learn and expand your education, it is a fun time. And we're doing our first field trip on next Thursday. The sheriff is allowing us to go tour the jail, so we're excited about that.
Okay. That'll work. All right, so stay away from there unless invited. You know.
Exactly.
So speaking of projects, so I asked Nancy if there were some projects going on that we could talk about, and she sent me a list of them. Looked like the Diamond Head phone book 25 years ago. So obviously drainage was a big one, and right now between draining and dredging, you have about 9 major projects going on, right? So they include Beauview, Coon Branch, Ahuli Drainage, Colo Court. You seem to be draining every piece of water in the place.
Yes.
So here you go. If you need your cheat sheet, just send me help yourself.
So we do have a lot of drainage projects going on, and we know the area specifically. I was very fortunate working in 2013-14 to draw the master drainage map, and it was the first time the city of Diamond Head was divided into drainage basins. So these areas show where the water goes and where we need to improve on. With development, the dynamics change in Diamond Head, right? Where we had pervious areas which were once green and full of trees. They're not pervious anymore, so the water has to go someplace, and the additional runoff has to be collected. So this does change some areas. We have seen some areas change as a result of this. Drainage projects, we've got them in line for every area that we have identified that needs to be improved. And with the funding, we should be able to complete all those projects. This is the year you're going to see a lot of improvements in Diamond Head with MDOT's work, right? So we have been waiting since 2014 or 13. I had made a PowerPoint to bring to MDOT for the Exit 16 and the challenges that we were facing. One of the biggest challenges that we saw, and I had stood on the overpass for 2 weeks and videotaped, was school buses stopped on the Jordan River. Traffic coming from the west that did not know that lane end, 80, 90 miles an hour. We know what folks do on the interstate, and those buses stopped. MDOT looked at the PowerPoint, they got engaged, they put up those ugly cones that none of us like, but those were the best cones that I ever saw in my life, because with that came $7 million to fix the exit. It should bid out. We thought it was going to bid out in March. It got delayed. It will bid out in June, and the project will start around September. This is a $7 million project to improve Exit 16. The city was not involved in the layout or the design. It is 3 roundabouts, but we do feel it's going to work very well to get people off the interstates, no more going around, as my grandbaby sitting in the back will say, the loop-de-loop. They make me do it 2 or 3 times because they think it's fun. So we will no longer need to do the loop-de-loop. We will be able to get off the exit, go around the roundabouts, and come into Diamond Head. We're going to enhance the gateway. We've got plans in the 2040 envision on landscaping. We did request from MDOT not to do a solid curb going up into the city of Diamond Head. They're going to do punch-out areas to allow us to put trees in that fit with the 2040 plan. With that also comes the $70 million project, a 6-lane I-10, starting at Long Beach where it ends at the 4 lanes all the way to the bridge. That not only impacts the city of Diamond Head, but that impacts the Mississippi Gulf Coast. That allows for economic development. Behind that project, you all remember we had the big presentation at City Hall, and I want to say it was 2015, where we had the sound barrier wall, and MDOT come and show us the sound barrier wall. That will be part of that project as well, with the walking trail behind it to tie into the master restore plan.
Okay. And one last question, we'll open it up to the public. What about the south side? What's going on there? Does anything need to be mitigated or whatever to help it grow faster? What's going on down there?
I think the biggest problem on the south side is the FEMA maps we adopted in 2009. We are working with our legislators. We're working with SMPDD. There are plans, in place to bring the new FEMA flood maps back to FEMA and ask for changes. When they came out after Katrina, a lot of areas that were in C zones, y'all remember the C zone, the non-flood zone, which is now X zones? So much of the coast was impacted by those new flood maps. Do they need to be reviewed and probably adjusted? Yes, they do. The south side, we have got funding and we've got projects going on, and currently we've got an engineer in here working on that project. We're looking at getting all the canals restored. So we hope that will help as well. They've never been restored, or we can't use the word dredge. So when you hear restored, and I'm talking about water, I'm meaning dredging. So they're going to be cleaned out and restored, and we hope that will help on the south side as well.
All right, very good. All right, well, I'll turn this over because it says dredge more than once. All right, does anybody have any questions out there? The mayor's here.
Didn't understand what Nancy was saying about, you said the 6 lanes from Long Beach to the bridge. What bridge is that?
Okay, so you were asking about the 6 lanes from Long Beach to the bridge? What bridge? The Jordan River Bridge, just past our exit. And we hope in the near future the federal government will take it from the other side of the bridge all the way to the Louisiana line. We'd love to see that done.
Could you give us an update, Nancy, on the Diamond Head Lakes project, the Elliott Homes area? Thank you.
So we see Diamond Head Lakes. That's a very good question. So does everybody know where Diamond Head Lakes is, the new Elliott Homes subdivision off of Diamond Head Drive West? Well, we all know where that is. Well, there was a resident that had brought to our attention that some silt fencing was down, right? And we had a heavy rainstorm. And stormwater management, I've drawn hundreds of stormwater management plans in my life, and it's probably the biggest part of your construction plans, and it should be if it's not. It should be the most important part of your construction plans. So looking at stormwater management, the building department, the city manager, what we need to do and what they do, and they try to do their best. So if you see a silt fence down, you need to call City Hall. Silt fences are supposed to be buried below the ground, right? So what does that allow? Whenever it rains and you see all the red clay, and you've got to have red clay on a construction project. That's just part of it. Not a lot, we hope, but you need some. The red clay and the rain, when it comes and it starts to rain, the silt fence's job is to what? Protect the runoff. So it does not get in our waterways. Diamond Head is surrounded by water. Bay St. Louis, Waveland, we all share the Bay of St. Louis, and it's everybody's job to protect our waterways. We are leaving this to our kids, our grandkids, their kids, and we need to do our best. If you accidentally don't have your silt fences in place, the building department will help you do it. They will issue a stop work order. They will give you time to address it. And I do believe by next Tuesday, after speaking with the building department yesterday, things are in place, and the silt fences will be corrected, and they will be back to work after next Tuesday.
Help.
Hello?
Do we have a time limit?
Hello. Y'all know I like to talk, but I'm out of
Let's
juice.
see what happens.
Are the developers going to be required to repair the damage they've done to the lakes that are currently ruined? And
Okay, the question was, is the developers required to repair the damage they did? Yes, ma'am, they are required as part of the cleanup from not having your silt fences in place and the stop work order. You are to clean up what slipped out.
I've asked before, but I don't know whether it's out yet. How in the world are they going to build those roundabouts and still have traffic flow? I can't figure out any way.
And Paul, you and I need to take a trip to City Hall to show you the plans. The plans are tremendous. MDOT did an excellent set of plans. So it's 3 roundabouts, and actually the one up by Burger King, the one furthest north, is going to have an exterior lane, and even coming off the exit from the east, where if you live in Diamond Head and you're going toward Rouse's, you don't even have to get on the roundabout. When you get off that exit, there's a separate lane where you can turn right if you don't feel comfortable. And you, So you can head off the exit, get on the ramp on the other side, and be able to go into Rouse's without getting on the roundabout.
The question was, how do you build around
Oh, okay. How do you build a roundabout? I've said this 50 times, and I want y'all to hear it again. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be a mess, and you're all going to be emailing me and posting about me on Facebook. So go ahead and start, because it is. But this is an MDOT project. It's going to be tremendous. You know, my thought on it is I'm going to be taking the back entrance a lot. I am. I'm going to be coming. I am just going to tell you now, I'm going to be best friends with the DeLille exit. So, which is not a bad thing. You know, there's the nursery there you can go shop at. Nico's. There's plenty to do on the back end. So that we've got, Diamond Head's got development on either side, but it's going to be, and we haven't seen the traffic control plans. So what Paul's talking about is the traffic control plans. Once the contract is bid, right?
Just keep talking.
Once it's bid and the contractor is selected, at that point they will be required to give MDOT the traffic control plans, and those will be given to the city so that we know what part's going to be closed off at what time.
And I'd like to ask a question behind that. So real quick, is there a law against stoplights in Diamond Head, or we just don't want them?
We don't like them.
Okay, all right. Let's go.
No, there's no law against
All right, I
it.
didn't-
And we have done well for 50 years without them.
Well, we got big, but go ahead. I'm sorry,
Go
there's a
ahead.
question back here.
Is there a plan in place for tree preservation and conservation, and also greenscapes for people to enjoy more greenery with our trees?
So yes, and yes, and yes on all of that.
There you go, for 50 seconds.
So currently, if you're on my email list, you received an email saying, hey, we're updating the tree ordinance. Please email Pat Rich, John McGraw, Tammy Garber, but send in those emails with your thoughts on the tree ordinance. We did get the draft tree ordinance in yesterday, so we have started with that. Any input y'all have on the tree ordinance, this is your chance to try to protect the trees. I saw maybe 3 people at the Planning Commission sharing their input, but it's very, very vital, so y'all need to get that information in. On tree preservation, if you look at the 2040 Envision, all the streets that we have in the gateway is landscaped. We've got a beautiful selection of plants that Orion Planning had done to be able to have for our developers in the commercial area to select from, to pick, and to utilize. So landscaping and trees are very vital to the future of Diamond Head. And I will say, working with Paul Montjoy, we planted 50 live oak trees. 150. It was a lot. It seemed like 250, but we planted a lot with the help of Camp Shelby, and the circle is complete. Miss Penny over here was part of that. So trees are a big part of our preservation. And thank you for being an arborist.
What else?
Another question? Oh.
Yes, my name is Cindy, and I'm the Lily Pond House. And first, I want to thank John for being very informative. Every time I've called you, you really calmed me down a lot. But I wanted to know how the project is going. Is it on schedule, or you think, because I think July was the end, it's supposed to be around the ending date. And also, I'm still a little concerned about the water runoff, because the dirt right now is like 5 feet above my grass level, and I'm hoping that they're going to grade it or pitch it, however you say it, to flow towards the pond and not in my backyard.
So the city is working currently. The contractor has moved out that area. The contract does end. It does end around July. You will see the city workers in there. They are currently moving the dirt, and it was delayed because John was waiting on the contractor to give him the quantities before we started hauling it off. That dirt will be hauled off and moved from that location. It will be graded and it will be seeded. So there will be grass. And then Keep Diamond Head Beautiful is coming in behind that and planting trees.
All right, so I guess we're out of time.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you so much, Mayor Depreo. And of course, we want to thank our host and sponsor, the Longo Group, Ted Longo. Excellent job. You always do your homework. And thank you so much for sponsoring this event today.
So once again, I invite you to join the Hancock Chamber. It'll be one of the best decisions you make, as you can see from today's event. And all you have to do is go online, hancockchamber.org. We'd love to have all of you join with us as we continue to work together to build a better Hancock County. Thank you all.